Hello and welcome to Dixon Cox, where we go through the week's news with a dash of humour and just a sprinkle of far-right thuggery. I'm Nick Dixon, and as always, I'm here with Paul Cox. This is coming out a day late because both Paul and producer Rory cancelled last minute yesterday. I thought about doing it on my own because I can, of course, produce it myself and host it myself. But I know some of you don't just want Dix, you also want Cox. So I thought we'd wait and do it a day later. So here we are. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I did too much detail, but a ropey one yesterday. I had I don't know. I think I ate something, but yeah, it wasn't going to happen. But thank you. I'm doing okay. I didn't realise Rory had been unwell as well, or was unavailable, so we're slightly better
Well,
now.
this is why you don't work with humans. They
Yeah,
just let you down.
don't work with. That's what they say. Don't work with humans or
That is my
technology.
that's my rule of thumb. And you briefly went as well there because you're in a bunker somewhere. So we'll have to hope the internet works. It's all nightmarish. But we work to give you this brilliant content, guys. Which is, I mean, I've said it's going to be brilliant content. I've sort of put quite a high bar there. Podcast starts 3:16, but we will press on because this week we have so much to do. We have Shabana Mahmood's policy on asylum, which has driven everyone bonkers, especially on the left, while people on the right are claiming credit for it. And then that's going to take up most of the show. But we also have a couple of extra stories. Andy Burnham's talking about running again. Clive Lewis has said he'll give up his seat. And this Farage nonsense about comments he said at school, which I already knew because it's all in the Michael Crick biography, but the media's deciding to freak out about that. We might get onto that as well. That will be behind the paywall, though, probably at nickdixon.net, where you can subscribe for a mere £5 or even less with the yearly option. And you get all the full versions of all my content. You get my private chat ramblings, and you get extra podcasts me and Paul do on there, and you get all sorts of stuff, and all the guest episodes, which are an absolute nightmare to do, which I'm talking about not doing anymore. But for now, you've got all sorts of guest episodes, full versions in the archive. Carl Benjamin, uh, David Starkey, millions of others. Pete North, we just did, that was a good one, top form as ever. And if you don't get behind the paywall, you can't get him slagging off Catherine Burblesing. So that's the kind of thing that we have on nickdixon.net. And also go to at Paul Cox Comedy for all Paul's stuff. I don't think he has a paywall really. Oh, he does. You have a Substack, don't you?
I do have a Substack. I just don't produce much on it. So, but feel free to pay for nothing.
But Paul will be on Talk soon, having his own show, like the Gammon World or something, uncompromising views. They'll be trying to. I'm telling you, I watched Mike Graham's interview with Dan Wootton yesterday.
So
It was
did I
interesting.
actually. Yeah. So
Yeah,
did I because
you watched it with a notepad, just going, "How can I be the new Mike Graham?"
no, I'm just making notes for when I eventually send that tweet that gets me fired from everything. But no,
Claim you've been hacked.
it was
I
interesting.
believed him. I believed it. I believe Mike. I stand with. I believe all
Do you
Mike
know what?
Grahams.
It's not as cut and shut as we were led to believe. Okay, because he didn't hand over his phone. I think had you not heard what Mike had to say about it, you might just think, well, guilty as charged. However, um, once you finish listening to everything that Nick has to offer on nickdixon.net, go over to Dan Wootton and listen to that or watch that interview because it's fascinating actually because it's not as cut and dry as you might think. And it's a fickle old world, media. So we all know
Brutal. Brutal.
we're not here to we're not all here to stay. But the great thing about independent media, which is exactly what Mike's doing now, is that we're not going to fire ourselves.
That's why I'm doing it. I mean, media is cold. Think about how cold media has been to, well, some of the people here, and then you think about Mike Graham. You realize there's no time when they're nice to you. 20 years, 30 years. They don't treat you like a human ever. It's just like you're gone, just gone in a day, out the door for no reason. Basically, because some bloke snitched him out. Some bloke basically grassed him up in the sports section, and it was like, it's racist. And I don't. Yeah, Mike says he didn't send the post. That's fine by me. But yeah, he didn't want to give the whole phone because he did admit like there's stuff on there that you might not want your employer to see. Basically, if you slag off your workplace, which literally everyone does, then they've got your phone. I was also thinking if they're mirroring your phone, they wanted to like mirror it and like sound like in real time at one point. Then imagine like couldn't they see like messages coming in which you couldn't stop? I don't know.
Probably. So
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but they wanted to just completely deep dive his phone. He did it independently. He said, "Look, this wasn't one of our stories, but he said, look, the message there's no record of me deleting the message. I've done this independent thing, but they wanted like total access with their lawyers to his phone. I can see why you wouldn't hand. I wouldn't hand that over.
no,
Just
I
my
wouldn't.
my message to you alone
Uh,
would be enough.
yeah, yeah. There is a WhatsApp group or two that I might not want people to read, but he was shrewd enough to take legal advice on handing the phone over, and it's probably just as well he did. Because do you know what? If you're going to get sacked, get sacked. Get sacked without any information on you whatsoever. Because had they not been able to prove one thing, they might have been able to prove a whole bunch of other things that they would have sacked him for anyway. And that's just such an incursion on his privacy. It's unreal. The whole thing
Yeah.
is questionable anyway. Like we have prescribed opinions now. We don't have our own opinions. We have the opinions of our employer, whoever that might be. And even the employer don't have those opinions. It's whoever the higher ups are. And it's like, well, what are you supposed to? One thing that's controversial today is not controversial tomorrow, and that leads us right in to Shamama.
Yeah, which we'll get to. Last thing I'd say is these companies are pointless if you're going to completely capitulate at the first sign of anything that the left doesn't like or lefties don't like. What's the point of you? It's like, oh, he was racist. Oh, he's sacked down immediately. Yeah, it doesn't matter about his record. It's like, oh, so you're just woke then, basically. You're just the same as everyone. So it's completely pointless. That's why we have nickdixon.net, and that's why we have this channel. And yes, let's get on with it. So I'm sure you saw this. Shabana Mahmood came out with this policy. Now we're going to dissect in expert fashion whether it's actually what we want or not. So this is this is part of it. This is the restoring order and control, a statement on the government's asylum and returns policy, and we don't have time to go through all of it at all. But I'll give you some of the main bits. I mean, there was this 5 year rule where you'd have 5 years as a refugee, their language, we might say migrant, to apply for settlement. That's gone, and that will be 30 months instead. And it can only be renewed if they're considered in need of protection. There'll be no path to indefinite settled status. That was indefinite leave to remain until 20 years, which used to be 5 years. That was a big one that got a lot of media attention. This is a bit of a red flag, which we'll watch a video on in a moment, but the protection work and study visa route. So, which is here. So the government does not believe that refugees should seek to remain on core protection. They're calling their new thing core protection. We want to encourage refugees to integrate more fully into the communities, providing them sanctuary. To address this, we will encourage refugees to switch to the core protection route, out of the core protection route, whenever possible, into the protection work and study route. And so you go, well, okay, but who can get into that? If that's everyone, then that's no good either. So there's new requirements on family reunion so that you won't be able to just automatically have your family. There's a reduced right to public funds, so you'll have to be seeking work. Imagine that. Things like that. Revoking the duty to support. We've got they'll remove the current legal obligation to provide support to asylum seekers who would otherwise be destitute. That's gone. There's loads and loads we can't get through. I mean, one of them was mad. Was that we had to currently support people who commit crimes. Did you know that one?
Previously, under the Tory government, also uh, discounted access to the NHS by 67%. So we were giving migrants, illegal or otherwise, who had not put into the pot, special dispensation based on nothing whatsoever. You know, you have to have this system built on fairness. And there are people. I saw an interview. I think it's gone pretty viral this week. So pretty standard 70-year-old white bloke in a shopping precinct in England somewhere, essentially saying, he's 70 years old. He put into the pot for 50 years, and since he's retired, he's got unequivocal evidence that there are people that have arrived illegally and legally, I guess, that have been getting ahead of the queue ahead of him, and it's just not right. Now, it's not right based on fairness. What we have done, we've done a number of things, right? We've made minority a commodity. We've made victimhood a commodity, and we put that commodity at the very top of society and said, if you don't believe in this in some way, then you are bad. To the point where no matter where you look in society, whether it's illegal immigration or the trans debate or even disability, if there is somebody who has disability in some way, and let's just say for argument's sake that they're a professional comedian and you don't find them funny, now whether they're disabled or otherwise is irrelevant. The idea is that they are a professional comedian, and if you don't find them funny, in the same way as if you don't find me funny, I've got no excuse whether I'm disabled or otherwise. But we are told that if someone is disabled, that you are then ableist. And you're told, if you're like, you see a man in a women's changing rooms where your daughter is with his knob hanging out and he's calling himself Shirley and you've got a problem with it, you're then transphobic. Or if you've got an illegal immigrant who has not paid in anything whatsoever, made no attempt to, and is getting some sort of cancer treatment in front of your wife who paid into it for 35 years, in some way that's fair. And if you don't believe so, it's racist based on the colour of the person getting away with its skin. This is mental. It is a psychosis. We have taken, like I say, minorities and victimhood and political ideology and made them a commodity and said, if you do not invest in this, you are bad. And because, and even still now, and it's getting a lot better, but because people are scared, people say it's more than my job's worth. People will say, I'm not getting involved because they stamp down, they call you far right, they get rid of your job, they put you in prison. You don't feel like you can question it at all, so you stay stum. And that's the problem, Nick.
Yeah, and just on that one detail as well, this part support will also be conditional on asylum seekers complying with UK law. And you're like, well, yeah. So today, criminality does not exclude an asylum seeker from receiving state support. This is unacceptable, and we will sanction those who take advantage of our generosity. I mean, it's completely insane. To see it written down there, you just realize, wow, look at what we've been doing. Um, and this was my concern about the legal routes as well. Mahmood
Yeah, well,
commented on it.
this is the point. Just before you show this, the cynical amongst us, or those who are paying attention, will look at this and think. First of all, the first impression is, "Oh, this is quite a right wing policy, and it's definitely going in a direction we'd all like." But then you see, actually, in order to try and sell it to their own backbenchers who are not going to buy it anyway, they put in safe and legal routes. This whole thing is a conduit for safe and legal routes. And what do safe and legal routes do? They make it even easier to get here than is currently so. It's mental.
Yeah, and that's the worry. And let's just see what Mahmood said here.
As we get order and control into the system that we have inherited, these safe and legal routes will become more generous over time. They will start modest, the numbers will be in the low hundreds, but they will grow, and we want them to grow because we want people fleeing sanctuary to be able to find safe harbour here in this country. And we make we are absolutely proud of that position as a government. This route will grow over time. I hope people across the House will support that, but I think we have to get order and control into our system first.
So, do we want those routes to grow? I mean, I don't want any of it to grow. I just want the deportation number to grow. It's very concerning when you hear that. Now, I'm not nitpicking. Of course, I want the policy to work, but this was definitely a concern that we have to flag.
So she's placating her backbenchers. Now, even within reforms policy, um, in all of their policies, they try and placate and appease, as all politicians need to do, by the way. So even when it comes to their economic solutions, they have actually found a very good way of raising £25 billion very quickly. I won't go into too much detail now, but just capping foreign aid at 1 billion is an excellent way to do that and saves literally half of that £25 billion black hole straight away. And then all sorts of other benefit caps. And even within that, they've got caveats where you are incentivized to work towards it, but it'll take a long time. And what you'll have to do is assimilate and contribute. These are all things I think that we'd be happy with on the basis that this is how it seemed to work 20, 30 years ago when we had a much less immigration. I don't know if it did or didn't, by the way. That's why I say it seemed to. But one thing that did stand out all that time ago is the numbers were much lower, so the impact on the rest of us was less so. Look, safe and legal routes, I don't think we need them. The safe and legal route to get into this country is to have a legitimate reason to come here to work. And if you're literally fleeing war, there are a number of places you can go before you even get here. I don't think if you're fleeing war that you get to cherry pick your favorite country in Europe because that's where you want to go, or even because your auntie's here, or your brother's here, or your mother's here. I don't think that's the case. If I'm fleeing war with a young family, I just want to get to safety. Okay, and that's that. So I think that can be covered off that way. And of course, you could say that's unfair to Italy because it's on the other side of the Mediterranean from North Africa or the Middle East or whatever. But that's not our problem. And not our problem is a legitimate way of dealing with a whole bunch of things as it is with your own life. You can't open up the doors and say, we are a basket for the rest of the world to come and take the piss out of. And Mahmoud, and we were talking about this before we came on air. I don't know why politicians and media broadcasters have started saying Mahmoud because it's Mahmoud, and I've absolutely no idea what they're
It's
doing.
like Kiev, isn't it? We all had to say Kiev. Now we all have to say Mahmoud. And I
Yeah,
was telling you about the Woody Allen film Manhattan when because I remember watching it before all the revelations,
all the
which we
good
don't know
stuff.
if they're true or not. But there's a bit when she says Van Gogh, and he's like, "Did you hear like Van Gogh, like an Arab she spoke?" And I was like, always stayed in my head like Van Gogh, and now we're all saying Mahmoud. It's ridiculous. Say Mahmoud. It's normal.
And look, let's not make bones about this. This if you are a Labour supporter, and particularly if you're a modern Labour supporter now, you must wonder what you voted for. You must have no idea because they are flailing around in the political winds, looking at what's popular and picking it up. Okay, just happens that on this particular policy, they are parroting something that you and I are interested in. They don't mean it. You only have to
Well,
look. You only have to, and I'm sure we're going to get onto this, but you only have to look at the history of Mahmood to know that she doesn't personally mean it, unless she has had some, great awakening in the last couple of weeks, which, let's face it, is her new position in the government. That's all that's happened, and she's figured out how she can do well in that position. I don't even feel like Keir Starmer's bought into this. I just don't see that anybody's going to deliver it from Labour's perspective.
well, there's different ways of looking at that. First question: lots of people in the comments will be saying, "Well, she's sort of dedicated to Islam, so that's what she believes in above all else, and that's there's something in that." And they'll be saying, "Of course, she's not going to stop the boats and blah blah." The more generous view would be she's part of the blue Labour type movement. Lord Glassman has praised her. She's close with Morgan McSweeney. So the other way of looking at it is, and she also scrupulously avoided being part of Corbyn's shadow cabinet. She said tactfully that we would drive each other mad, so she stayed out of working with Corbyn. And obviously, that was a shrewd thing to do in the long term for the Labour Party. So, really, what you're talking about, yes, it can be a lack of sincerity, but it can also be the divisions within the party because there's just so many different parties within Labour. We know there's a problem like that within Tories, but there certainly is within Labour as well. You've got the backbench. We've got Andy Burnham right now thinking about a challenge. We've got Rayner, people say plotting to come back with a challenge. And then you've got the Ed Miliband bonkersness, and then you've got the Corbyn, which he's now obviously independent, but you've got that side where people go, right, I'm going to have to even go into your party or independent because I'm so far out there. But then you've got the Blue Labour side. You've got the McSweeney. Blue Labour's not exactly aligned with McSweeney, but it's more aligned. So you've got these different factions, and she's of the Blue Labour type faction. And yeah, let's see. I mean,
It's the most popular thing that they've done since they got into government. I
well,
want,
it had to
I
do
want,
something.
I want to look at this as a commentator and not necessarily 100% from my personal view. And on that basis, and if you if you discount the fact that what they've done is nick most of it from reform, it's a popular move. And the reason it's a popular move is because nearly every constituent member of the electorate over the last 20 years has voted for a manifesto that has included somebody doing this, and they just never have done it. And what it's
Yeah.
taken is
Well, that's
murders.
the legal side. We haven't even got to the legal side, which she's not even
Well, it's
addressing.
just
This
never
is
going to
just a
happen
boat.
because
This is just a boat, which is an obvious crisis. I mean, she's called it a moral mission, just said it's a problem that just has to be fixed. Our asylum system's broken. But we've got now, well, we'll get into them later, but we've got all these lefty politicians who their position is just open borders. Anyone can come in, doesn't matter what they do. It's completely, that shouldn't even be on any wing of politics, but because it is, she has to deal with that.
well, there's obviously a market for it. Polanski's looking at he's creeping slowly towards 20% of the polling vote, and that's because he's gobbling up all the mentals that are from Labour.
Gobbling up the mentals.
Gobbling up the mentals
Welcome
is
to Gobbling Up the Mentals. I'm Zach Polanski. Have you ever worried about your breast size or thought there are not enough people coming on dinghies? You'll love Gobbling Up the Mentals.
would you like unfettered illegal immigration and legalized class A's? Come on
A,
in.
a goal hanger podcast.
It's
Um,
exactly what it is.
sponsored by Gary Lineker. Go
So
on.
gobbling up the mentals is what Polanski's doing, and obviously even the mentals are looking at your party and going, "Well, who's in charge of that fuck up? No one
Yeah, and
knows."
you don't mean my party, do you? You
No, I
mean
don't.
your
I mean,
party.
this
Hang
is
on,
the
it's like
point.
an Abbott and Costello sketch.
Yeah.
You don't mean your party either. You mean your
No,
party.
I mean the party that's called your party, which
Right.
isn't yours.
As far as we know, we don't know what it changes. We don't really know if it is called that. And they keep changing the website. We don't know. Is Zara Sultana running it or Corbyn? We don't
Well,
really know, do we?
she's now been reported to the something of financial misconduct because she took in several £100,000 of donations to get the party started and then started investing it herself um, in a very capitalistic way. Fucking morons. And
Well, you could say in a sort of Soviet way. There's always a few people that do
yeah,
well out of those those
well,
systems.
it's look. Basically it's brilliant. It's a social experiment, and Sultana is showing us exactly what it looks like if you put the mental socialists in charge. You get the Your Party. If you don't get them, and they're slightly more moderate than that, and slightly more together, but unable to maintain their dental hygiene, you get Zach Polanski. And in Zach Polanski, in gobbling up the mentals, as his party will now be known, as far as I'm concerned, you will just get every left wing ideologue who thinks who won't even pay attention to the other. This is the thing about the ideologues. They hone in on the particular policy or two that they like, and it's in amongst all this other batshit stuff, but they don't care about it because they go, "Oh, he's going to do that thing for me," and it's like, "Yeah, but what about all the other stuff?" And they go, "That doesn't matter because he's going to let men in women's changing rooms," and I fucking love that.
Yeah, well, this was the obvious ground to take up for someone like Mahmood, because if the left can address immigration, there's a lot of votes for them there, while of course not alienating the mental side completely, as you say, or risking alienating it a little bit, because there's so many votes in it. If you just, even from an economic perspective, if you just said this is reducing our domestic wages, but anyway, this is illegal immigration, which is a different thing, which is just an absolute no brainer. But on the kind of thing we've been talking about, let's have a look at Mahmood destroying some of these lefties. So this one started from a lib dem, this annoying lib dem guy who lectured her for ages with his wetness. And then she responded, and we'll probably have to bleep this out because the YouTube algorithm won't really know the context. So, but she said it in the comments, which is kind of sort of questionable. I mean, Caroline Noakes told her off for it, which is she's probably doing a better job than anything she did as an MP, and perhaps rightly. But this was very interesting because this was her response to the wet lib dem.
I have to say to the honourable gentleman, I wish I had the privilege of walking around this country and not seeing the division that the issue of migration and asylum system is creating across this country. Unlike him, unfortunately, I am the one that is regularly called a and told to go back home. It is I who knows through my personal experience and that of my constituents just how divisive the issue of asylum has become in our country. And I do say to him, I wish it were possible to say that there isn't a problem here, that there's nothing to see, and that it is all, in fact, just extremist right-wing talking points. But this system is broken, and it is incumbent on all members of parliament to acknowledge how badly broken the system is and to make it a moral mission to fix this system so that it stops creating the division that we all see. And I do say to him, I do not think it is acceptable or appropriate for people in this place to not acknowledge the real experience of those who sit outside of this house. We are supposed to be in here to reflect that experience in this house. And I hope that he will approach the debates that we will no doubt have on all of these measures in that spirit.
Fascinating. So, what's really interesting there is a few things. I mean, depends how you look at it. So one version is just that she's dealing with that first part, saying, "Well, you can have these wet views because you don't know the reality, and you don't get called things like this." And then she's moving on. But if you see that as one argument, it's quite an extraordinary thing she's saying. To me, she's saying that the illegal migrant crisis has made people who are normally reasonable so angry and intolerant that the country is not intolerant, but it's made people so angry that the racial tensions are being exacerbated, which is clearly true. And then it leads to people like her getting called these names. And what you'd normally do if you're a lefty is say, therefore, that person's evil and end of story. But what she actually does is say, therefore, we actually need to fix this. And you could argue that's like a really hard nosed realist kind of position. If she is saying that, quite an extraordinary position in a way. Emily Maitlis actually noticed this and said, well, hang on, you shouldn't be capitulating to these people. And actually, it was one of the rare things that Maitlis said where she had actually understood what was said there. Mahmood is really saying, you don't know how bad it is out there. This is just making our country very angry. I'm actually part of on the receiving end of the anger. Therefore, we need to do something about it. But most lefties would never do that. They would just say, therefore, the person shouting that at me is evil. Maybe she thinks that particular person that's shouting at her is awful, but she does seem to draw a link between that and the general feeling of anger out there. Did you think that was what
Yeah,
she was saying?
I did actually pick up on that. First of all, it found like immediately she took a pop at white privilege straight away. So I was like, okay, because
Yeah,
my
that bit's
radar
annoying.
my radar picks up on that immediately because it just gets thrown at guys like us. Okay, or just shut up because you've always had it good. Oh, we haven't had it good actually. I don't know which white men you're talking about, but it wasn't us. So
No.
don't put us all in
Well,
together.
I didn't get to fail 11 plus and go to a grammar school like her. I was thinking about it today. I was like, hang on, I got these really high grades. No one said to me go to Oxford, and I didn't get to go to grammar school. So, yeah, I mean, she had a Labour
Well, wait until they're
supporting,
not the minority
engaged dad.
anymore. I mean, we are the global
Oh yeah,
minority. That 6% of the global population are white. We are a massive, massive global minority. Okay, just so happens that you and I live in countries where, for many millennia, white-skinned people were the majority. Now, that's not going to be true by I think it's like 2062 or something like that, according to Matt Goodwin.
so they say. Yeah.
So it's
Unless we do a
okay.
lot more of these deportations, but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
of course, and it's like
you're right.
there's
That
a
was
whole
annoying.
bunch
That
of
white.
stuff
If
going on.
that's what she was saying, that bit was annoying. But then he was being a wet lib dem.
Yeah, he was big. And do you know what? There's no time for Lib Dems now. I said this a while ago. That time has passed. You can have all of these. You can have all of these ideas. They are ancient. They are like pre 2024. They are ancient. It makes them white privilege ancient. You know, um, minorities are the best. Ancient. We need to accept grapists because we need to be kind. Ancient. It's all ancient, ancient news. It's not where we're going. So there was some solace to be taken from what Mahmood said, in the sense that she's saying, look, we're exacerbating people's stress and tension within the communities in this country, and through their anger, they are saying things that are not very pleasant. But instead of, it's a bit like when someone finally snaps. They've been bullied for 5 years, and then they go mental and beat the crap out of three people. The story is they've beaten the crap out of three people. The story isn't for 5 years they were victimized to death to the point that they thought they had no choice. And for the first time in a long time, outside of reform, perhaps, we've heard a politician acknowledge that there is genuine anger and we shouldn't dismiss it. This is not cowtailing, like Maitlis says. This is not saying, because in order for Maitlis's ideology to stand up, she needs those people. If all of a sudden you de-devil those people and say these are human beings, they've got concerns, let's look at that. Perhaps there are things we can do to help society cohesion. We just haven't seen that. That's the first time since this has really kicked off that we've seen someone say that that's in a position to do something about it. That's why I excluded Nigel Farage and Reform, because they're not in that position, Nick.
Yeah, well, she may not be saying that guy is okay, but she's certainly saying that guy is extreme. But there's all sorts of anger that's legitimate,
No, I'm
and
not. Obviously,
she's
just for clarity, the effing P stuff. Well, I mean that's anecdotal. We have no idea if that's proved. If I gave an anecdote now about me being racially abused, people would expect me to provide some evidence. I'm not saying that, and I'm not providing evidence. She is saying that, and she's not providing evidence. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that that's not possible. But let's not get too carried away. But first things first, that as a comment is abhorrent. We don't want that anyway.
well, we don't know actually because in a piece in one of the papers she spoke about having been called that in a park as a child. You wonder how often it actually happens, but if she's talking about on X, for example, I can easily imagine it. But
Oh, some of the
um,
stuff we all get called on X, by the way.
I get called that on X. But
Me too. As the podcast's only black man, you should imagine what I get.
oh, it must be awful. But one thing she said actually was quite a strange thing on GB News, interviewed by Chopper. She not a strange thing, but he said, "Oh, is it the naivety of white people like the Lib Dem?" And she goes, "Well, I don't want to make it about race because people in my constituency," which is kind of that's what was weird that she basically admitted there's no white people in her constituency. She said, "Well, no, people in my constituency are saying all this as well. And she was basically saying all races are saying that they don't like the. And if you only have to speak to a sort of a taxi driver who's here legally, they all hate the illegal migrants as well. So it's not actually, despite what some of your Greens think, a white
It's the
issue,
truest
a
of
great
inequalities
problem.
in our country.
Yeah, yeah,
There are
yeah.
perceived inequalities everywhere, and we're told they're everywhere, and we're told everything's unequal. But the truest inequality in our country is that illegal migration is as supported as a legal migrant or an incumbent member of our society. That is the biggest inequality in our society right now.
Yeah, and in some ways better off because they get certain perks. But yeah, yeah, let's look at this then. I mean, on the subject of Mahmood dealing with nutter lefties, this was the Green Carla Denya, who's this. Well, let's just play it.
This is delicious.
Reform is actually just boosting this baseless far-right narrative and will only deepen divisions when we urgently need leadership and hope instead.
Let me tell her, I couldn't care less what any other political party has to say about these matters. I don't care what other politicians are saying on the television. I don't care what other activists are saying either. I care about the fact that I have an important job to do, and I can see that there is a problem here that needs to be fixed. If it was possible to pretend there wasn't a problem because there wasn't one, I wouldn't be saying there is one. There is a genuine problem in this asylum system, and we need someone to sort it out, not to pretend it doesn't exist, which I'm afraid is one of the things that fuels the division in the first place. My own constituents, since I have been Home Secretary, have been telling me directly of abuses in the visa system that they can see with the evidence of their own eyes long before any officials in Whitehall have ever clocked onto those things. It is a moral responsibility when you see something broken to fix it and to make sure that the fact that it's broken is not fueling division in our country. And let me also say to her, it is Green Party politicians who are absolute hypocrites because they talk great language in here and then oppose asylum accommodation in their own constituencies.
That is, you've got to play the curbed enthusiasm music after that, really, haven't you? It's, oh my God, just genuinely delicious.
Why is it doing it? Here we go.
Language in here.
I just want to see that again.
Oppose asylum accommodation in their own constituencies.
And for the audio only person, that is a little green pygmy woman going absolutely mental. That was just hilarious. I mean, she
But
really
going
wound
next
them up.
about something that is evidently true as well. I forget the name. She's one of the. I mean, by the way, Polanski's got about 2 or 3 co-leaders, isn't he? He's got Ali Ali Muslim. Can't remember his surname.
Muffin. And he's got the quite hot posh mad
Yeah.
chick.
But a posh mad chick is the one who said, you know, they're all doctors and surgeons and architects, but at the same time was vehemently saying they shouldn't be in her community.
Not in her area, because people are complaining. I know, it doesn't really piece it all together in her brain, does she?
So Carla Denya hasn't got a foot to stand on, really. And as I say, it's over. It's ancient. That you know, the basis on which she is standing, it has no place in British politics anymore. That's what we did for 30 years, and that's what got us here, Carla. It's tough shit. You can jump up and down as much as you like, but it is over.
This is a funny one from Caroline Lucas. Speaking of Greens or ex-Greens, Labour's latest attack on asylum seekers is cruel and counterproductive. How does it help community cohesion to hold threat of deportation over vulnerable people? We don't need an arms race with the hard right over asylum. We need safe routes and European cooperation. Hashtag BBC Laura. She hasn't realised yet Elon Musk has deboosted hashtags ages ago. And I just say it's insane that she was ever an MP. On this theme, we've
by
got...
the way, just so you know, Caroline Lucas, Brighton, Carla Denya, Bristol. These are 2. This is where you go to gobble up the mentals. If you are Polanski, you just go and talk in Bristol, you go and talk in Brighton, and then that proliferates, and you end up with all the mentals gobbled up at once.
Yeah, look at Dr. Louise Raw. Today I taught students about Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech. Oh, good. I had to add, in 2025, our Home Secretary echoed his views. Oh, no. 2 key differences. Powell was a Tory and instantly dismissed from his role in the shadow cabinet. I can't believe this is where we are. Maybe it's because that's not where we are. And I just said, imagine being a student with a working brain having to sit through this bollocks. 5.5 thousand. 5.4 thousand likes. How about this one? Philip Proudfoot. We've now reached a stage where the Labour government is taking direct policy inspiration from Nazi Germany. What can you
Do
say?
any
I
of them
mean,
know? I mean, have any of them read Enoch Powell? I mean, Rivers of Blood is one
have
speech.
any of them read The Austrian Painter? That's what I thought you were going to say.
No, no.
Have any
Tattoo.
of them read My
The,
Struggle?
the colouring on the tattoos coming on a treat. I can't wait for our special episode where I get out my painter tattoo. But they haven't read.
Yeah,
They haven't read Enoch
long
Powell.
running joke for fans.
Yeah, yeah. 1889 to 1945, RIP. That's what I saw on my
Yeah,
chest.
yeah, respect.
Respect.
pour your drink out for the Austrian Painter.
Everyone does a shot because Paul's mentioned
Yeah.
painter.
Cracking architect,
None of these
cracking painter, had potential as a painter or architect.
exquisite
Go on.
orator.
Yeah,
Which
great point.
yeah, great point. But they haven't read these. You know, you could just say Nazi now. That's all you have to say. It's just like the Nazis. And if you said to that guy, no matter how qualified he was in anything, you went to him, oh, how?
Oh well, actually, on how I forgot to mention. To be fair to Philip here, I forgot to mention this was in reference to Shabana Mahmood will tomorrow announce that asylum seekers will have their valuable assets like jewelry seized and sold to pay for their accommodation costs.
Oh
This
yeah,
drove people
that is a
absolutely
bit
mental.
Nazi-ish.
So much so to the point where people thinking maybe she threw that out there just to then take that away later and say, "Look, see, I've compromised," which would be quite clever. This was like on the sillier end of like, we'll seize the jewelry. And Farage said it's not really going to happen, but it's just a kind of shows that we're tough. Look at us seizing jewelry. It's just kind of, and the amount of people it would apply to is so trivial anyway, and it wouldn't probably happen.
It's not going to happen. And even if it did, what are they going to? What we're going to set on GB News? They got
By the
that
way, was
gold
Hitler
advert.
really mainly? Was he really? No, I've just broken any YouTube thing by saying his name. We're probably allowed to say his name. Was he really mainly known for snatching jewelry?
No,
It started with that.
no,
That was the gateway drug, really.
no, not really. And I mean, I'm not. How much jewelry have these guys got? There's
I
not
know.
something I've
Well,
noticed.
Zia Yusuf said they're not Lil Wayne coming over with their chains, which I think was fair. And it said, someone said someone had a big thing about, oh, this person would lose their engagement. He's like, no, well, they specifically said it won't apply to wedding rings, so you could assume it wouldn't apply to engagement rings. But I saw some posts freaking out about that. It's like, I think that's quite humane. It won't apply to wedding rings.
Yeah,
It's just
look,
if you come with a
just take
massive
it out.
chain, we'll be like, we'll have that.
We'll have that. Yeah, if they got a big Star of David on, we'll take it off.
David. Yeah, it's very likely. Yeah, good point. Did you see? I don't know how much time we got, but did you see also this quite interesting point from Nick Timothy that we don't get the figures. So this policy has been very influenced by the Danish policy, and that's she's openly taken inspiration from that. But the one difference is she's not going to release the data that the Danes get to see. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, based on the benches opposite, disagree with us. But I share the Home Secretary's admiration for the Danish model. And the Danish Finance Ministry publishes data regularly on the fiscal contribution of different profiles of migrants. This shows in Denmark that migrants from MENAT, the Middle East, North Africa, Pakistan, and Turkey are net recipients over the course of their lifetimes. Will the Home Secretary ensure that the Treasury publishes the same data in the same way in this country?
Well, we keep all statistics under review, as he knows, and as was the case, I believe, when he was an advisor to a former Home Secretary. And let me say to him, the principle that underpins all of these reforms is about fairness and contribution. We believe most people want to be able to contribute to this country because the refugees themselves recognize that is the best way for them to have stability and security in their lives, and it is what is needed for the wider community as well. And we think that all refugees, if they're on the protection work and study route, will have that opportunity. I'm not interested in models that start separating out different nations from one another. When somebody has got status in our country, they are on a path to becoming one of us if they are working and contributing.
Okay, so she didn't want to see the different data or to show us the different data, and it was quite of different nationalities and how they contribute. And it was quite gutsy, you could say, of Nick Timothy to mention one country that's her actual background, because he did mention Pakistan. So he wanted to see the data. She said, I'm not going to separate people up like that. I don't see why we shouldn't see the data. If immigration's so good, right? If we're so enriched by it, why can't we see exactly who's enriching us the most? What's wrong with that, Paul?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. The trouble with that is it would show exactly what they don't want us to see, which is that what she first said in the first part of the statement is statistically and largely incorrect. Most people don't come here because they want to contribute to society because that's the way they see they can best integrate. Most people want to come here and just exist here, stay within their own culture, stay within their own clans, and not contribute whatsoever. And in fact, take away from society by overwhelmingly committing more sexual assaults and violent crimes but per capita per head as a ratio across all the.
You mean for certain groups? When you say most people, although yes, overall we have seen that immigration is now is a net negative economically, but certain groups are disproportionately represented for certain crimes. They kind of
Absolutely, that's what I do mean. And one of the reasons that it looks like migration's come down is because we're leaving. 257,000 British people have gone. No, thank you, not for me anymore.
yeah, that's
And
tragic.
I support them in that. It's not something I'm planning to do. I believe in this country, but I tell you what, they believed in this
I don't.
country too.
I
They
don't support them because they're leaving. If you're really persecuted, and I have some noble exceptions for people like my friend Callum, who has been stopped on terrorism charges at the airport, even though he hadn't done anything. Obviously, he'd just gone to some controversial countries as part of his dark tourism that he does for YouTube, places like Russia and Afghanistan. When you have friends like that, I can understand he might not want any part of it, and he's a young person. If you're being politically persecuted, and if we're at the point where we really are being more than we already are, and we are kind of are already, like Lucy Conley. But if we're facing like some level of persecution, I can say, okay, I can understand why you're going to leave. In general, though, you shouldn't leave. You should stay and fight.
Yeah,
Just my opinion.
yeah. Look, I still think that these people believed in something that has been smashed to smithereens, and perhaps they are making decisions for themselves and for their families that are best for them, and would probably come back if things were restored to probably about, I don't know, 1998. I'm not sure quite where the last relatively okay days were.
And
Uh,
maybe they'll come back with a less ridiculous tax policy, a less ridiculous budget if a reform got in or something. But yeah.
Potentially. So I don't want to, because I would want those people to come back, by the way. I want people to contribute. These people have the means to leave. So they had the means to stay and contribute, but they decided, or they had, or it had become apparent to them that it didn't matter what they did, it was going to work against them. Keir Starmer is presiding over the biggest catastrophe British culture has ever seen. And I would say to someone like Carla Dania, you want to take us further. This reminds me of when we were in pandemic and people saying we need to lock down quicker and sooner. Sorry, quicker and harder. This is Carla Denia. This is the equivalent of that. She wants more migration. The one thing that's killing us, she wants more of. Who is she supporting in that?
Yeah, no, it's just supporting the destruction of the country in the West. It's not. It's not a viable position, as I said. It shouldn't even be on the political map.
No, she represents somebody with those views, but this it's
Yeah,
not.
people who hate the country,
Yeah,
or idiots, or idiots. There's always idiots.
well, it is definitely a combination of the two. But make no mistake, right? There are people that were born here that have white color skin that absolutely hate this country. They absolutely hate this country. They hate their daddy, and they see their daddy as the reason that this country is the way it is, and they therefore hate this country as well.
That's
They
that's the one thing Shabana Moo didn't say. You hate your daddy. That's the reason. I'd love to see that. Just
that would have been
standing up in
incredible.
Parliament. Daddy issues. My
But
daddy came home. Yours didn't. That's why you want to destroy the country.
that's
And then
exactly
she
what's
just
going
goes
on.
like, "Great,"
These
which
people
she
are
did anyway.
these people are broken. They're absolutely broken, and they stand for nothing. Absolutely nothing. They used to just be quiet voices on the periphery shouting shit. Now they've got seats in Parliament. They're producing policy, and for long periods of time have been in power. And Keir
You reminded me
Starmer should be
briefly of the.
nowhere near power. The man
Well, he
the
won't be
man doesn't
soon.
like politics. The man doesn't know what he believes in. He's built a cabinet of fucking idiots. And I've sworn lots on this podcast today. I'll try to refrain in the future, as I've done in the past. But we're at a point now where I can't imagine anything worse happening than maybe some of the people that are vying to take his position.
It reminded me. You reminded me briefly of the Big Lebowski. Then when you said these people are cowards, Donny. They believe in nothing. It just something you said. Just before we go from the YouTube version and the free version, let's have a quick look at this bit of expert trolling from Reform. They said, "Good morning, Shabana Mahmood," and it was Shabana in the Reform gear. She had a Farage top. She had a Reform cushion. It's quite detailed. She even has Farage's books in the background. She's got a Reform poster. She's got a little Farage doll, which was a nice touch. Farage poster, of course, and the England flag. Pretty good trolling. Some people suggested it was actually not a good approach when she's actually taking your policies. Shabana wasn't thrilled. She said, "Over my dead body." A little bit humorless. She could have gone with something else there, I think, but that's what she went with. Some people say, "Look,
Over my dead body was a bad response. I'm going to leave it there. That's a ridiculous response. But
yeah." I mean, she'd already said it in an interview. It's a little bit humorless. I mean, but you could say some people were really annoyed at Reform because they thought they were missing an open goal here. If she really is taking on your kinds of ideas, then you welcome it. You don't sort of mock her for it. Another thing I said is that Farage, what he admits that in rhetoric he likes what she's doing. In rhetoric, they're following Reform, but you could argue that because Reform don't have such clear policies, or their policies aren't strong enough with the 600,000 they want to deport, that actually she's leading the way now in policy. You know, and what Farage does, if you Gawain Tallis said an interesting thing a while ago, where that Farage actually, although he seems to be a pioneer, he actually just sees which way the wind's blowing and just follows it. So I wonder if you could almost say Farage is just now following uh, again what the mood. You know, he sets the rhetoric. Maybe they're copying his rhetoric, but he's now going to sort of be in the wake of their policy. I don't know.
well, I'll tell you what. If Mahmoud is genuinely interested in delivering what she said she wants to deliver, then she should join Reform. It shouldn't be
Yeah, I mean,
over. There's no
they even had
because
a website set up,
because
moodforreform.com
there's
or
no way
something.
she's going to deliver under any other party. She's not going to deliver it under her own party. Not a hope in hell. And by the way, hell is Great Britain.
Yes, I mean she's got to take on her own party and take on the blob, and people have pointed out how incredibly difficult this is, and without leaving the ECHR, which many think is necessary, some say
And
isn't
producing
necessary. So,
safe and legal routes. So, by the
yeah,
way, that's that's going to be the legacy of that.
yeah, and I actually said somewhere if the system won't work for a Muslim woman, it won't work for anyone, right? Because we have this idea, oh, the system wouldn't work for the Tories because it doesn't like the Tories. Everyone is a lefty in the civil service, but you've got a civil service full of lefties and with lots of Muslims in it as well. If they won't do it, no one will. You know, so then it really is broken. If she can't make the lever work, if the button doesn't do anything, then you really have a completely
Well, she's just
useless
turned herself
inert system.
as the wrong type of brown again. She'll just be cast into that cohort and be forgotten about. I'll tell you this now: if she
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
to deliver, she needs to go to Reform.
Do you know what? It's so right, Paul. There was a tweet that I had and I lost it. See if I can find it now. Which is exactly what you said. She was accused of having of being white power with a brown face. This is how nuts it gets. Do you remember when some of the sort of boomer types, no offense to boomers, they're actually a large chunk of my audience, but do you remember when people were saying, let's bring in Kemi because they won't be able to attack her for a race? And I was thinking, didn't you see what happened to Suella Braverman and Priti Patel? They attack you anyway. Well, there was a brilliant one, which I had and lost just before we started the podcast, where someone accused Shabana Mahmood of white power with a brown face. Which I just thought was absolutely extraordinary. And we've seen already in the podcast, she's called a Nazi. She's taking her policies directly from the Austrian painter. I mean, so there's nothing they won't say. I wish I can't find it.
They're just
Go
as
on.
they're just as racist, if not more racist, than the people they accuse of being racist. Every single one of them. They're always the same. They what they do is they build a framework of acceptable racism so they can work within that and just be as racist as they like. And obviously, inevitably, they are racist against white people. I mean, what the idea? They need to look into her background, by the way, because I don't think she's had this coming into the light moment. I don't think she has. I think that it's very populist. But like you say, if she
Look into
cannot,
whose background?
Mahmood's, there's nothing about her.
Oh, they need to. They need to say,
Yeah, because
yeah.
there's nothing about her background that tells you she was going to make this move, and
So
she.
this guy, I found it. He says Shabana Mahmood is an exemplar, nice word, of white power with a brown face. She follows in the footsteps of Sajid Javid, Priti Patel, James Cleverly, and Suella Braverman, all chosen to enact the most racist policies imaginable, using their ethnic backgrounds as cover. Classic white power with a brown face, Paul. Can't you see how white power this is?
Isn't she white?
I don't know. No, I don't think that person below is white, but this is
Middle Eastern,
he's
perhaps. I mean, this white passing. So it's always the same, though, isn't it? It's always the same.
that was a bloke above saying it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, if you were going to do, I don't know, the idea that Shavana Mahmood is enacting white power is just that's
Well,
where we are anyway.
no, I mean,
2025.
it means nothing. Skin color, same as kind of sexuality. It means nothing. Means
Well,
it really means nothing.
we should now go behind the paywall at nickdixon.net where Paul will say it means everything
Absolutely.
because because it's paywall. Thank you for watching and listening to the free one. There was a lot to get through. I mean, maybe I shouldn't do as many links, but whatever. Hey, whatever. You've watched for free, so shut up. Thank you very much. If you want more of this kind of thing, go to nickdixon.net and I hope you all have a great day. I never say that. I just thought I'd chuck it in. I don't mean it. Paul, you're at Paul Cox Comedy. Anything else you want to add?
Just the usual, and I think they're starting to do it now. Keep it real. Just like me and Nick, the real people keeping it real. Keep it real.
Keep it real. And on that note, I actually do wish you a good day. I was joking when I took it back. I regret that now. I was younger. You know, it was a different time. And speaking of that, in the paywall, we'll talk about Farage comments he allegedly made when he was younger, and we'll talk about Andy Burnham maybe becoming Labour leader. So join us on nickdixon.net. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.